to all and welcome to those who have been here before and to those who are just joining us. The words have been this day and before, Happy Thanksgiving. I'm sure we've all have things to be thankful for. And I'll just say I'm thankful that my spiritual master, my guru, and the Lord has brought me to be able to greet you this Thanksgiving Day. And since there's a reason for everything, we'll see. And I'm being thankful so that I'll know. Now, this is the presentation of Spiritual Warriorship Seminar from the books, Spiritual Warrior books of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. We're working from Spiritual Warrior 3, Solace for the Heart in Difficult Times, Chapter 7. Now you can purchase these books. There's 6 Spiritual Warrior books. You can purchase them at Krishna.com store, I believe. And there's also a link for a Spiritual Warrior poster with the qualities already printed nicely in a beautiful background. Picture was taken in Hawaii by Godbrother Maharatha. So I hope you've gotten yours or downloaded it. I'm not too clear with the words of this technology, but it's a wonderful thing to have to meditate on these qualities as we go through them. So we're working, as I said, Spiritual Warrior 3, Solace for the Heart in Difficult Times, Chapter 7. Bhakti Tirtha Swami states that these series of books are to help us realize that we are on a battleground, especially those of us who are trying to propagate righteousness, justice, peace, and love. You're constantly at battle, aren't you, with sin, illusion, and exploitation. He further gives a definition from the Spiritual Warrior 3 that I like to, and I will repeat it each week, because we want to get the sense of what we're studying here, talking about here. Spiritual warriors, spiritual warriorship. He states, the true spiritual warrior strives to master the weapons of love, humility, compassion, faith, and self-knowledge. Our battleground is the realm of human consciousness, where we wage war against ignorance and lust that now pervades human society like an occupying army. Our objective is a civilization where people live in harmony with each other and with God, awakened and in tune with the effulgent spiritual environment that is available to us. Toward these ends, we endeavor to develop ourselves and share our understanding with people we meet, giving them the tools they need to discover and experience the truth of themselves. So we're going to get these tools. One more statement he makes, that if one declares herself engaged in higher consciousness, you have so much to deal with. So much is necessary. So it is necessary to have technologies and methods to be victorious. And we know in any, if you look at the war scenes or whatever, they have to have weapons. They have to have the technology, the understanding of how to go on the battlefield and how to hide here. And you know the whole thing, what goes on out there. Well, as spiritualists, we must also fortify ourselves. But we fortify ourselves with spiritual knowledge. And once we have that spiritual knowledge, We have to put that knowledge into practice. And then, as spiritual warriors, we're capable of helping others, because that's what we're studying, that's what we're understanding. It's to help each other. We can't keep this to ourselves. So, last week, we went through, studied, spoke about the second and third tool, which were humility and fearlessness. I want to say, and what was the first tool? Everybody shout it out. Maybe I'll hear you here in Florida. But the first tool was what? Sense control and mastery of the mind. Did you try any of these tools? Did you try to apply them? You know, if you remember, if you were here when I first started, the first thing, one of the things he told us about spiritual warriorship is that you must hone the art of the spiritual warrior through sincere study and application. My Guru Bhakti Tirtha Swami, when he would be giving a class, I remember sometimes he'd say, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to give you something that you can use for your well-being and your benefit. And here we are offering what he has given so that we can be victorious on the battlefield and not become a casualty. So, did you try any? Did you note any changes if you tried any? Okay. And if you recall, when you were here, I gave you some questions. I hope you thought about them. And maybe what you could do, if you are inclined to come in the chat room later, if you had any experience of a change in your consciousness or behavior or interaction based on any of these tools so far, it might be nice to share. So tonight, we're ready. I hope you're ready for the fourth tool, which is truthfulness. But before I read from Bhakti Tirtha Swami, let's go to the Bhagavad Gita. I read from there last week. It was quite exciting because my realization between reading what he has written and these qualities and going and checking in the Bhagavad Gita, he's giving us Bhagavad Gita, but he's giving it to us in a way that possibly we can imbibe and understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita. I hope if you have a Bhagavad Gita, you might want to reach for it and we could look at this together. If you don't have a Bhagavad Gita as it is by Srila Prabhupada, you might consider, you can purchase at Krishna.com, and if I'm not mistaken, I think you can read it online. So it's the essence of this philosophy. So we're looking at truthfulness, number 4. And what I went to was chapter 10, text 4 and 5. And I'm going to just read the translation. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from doubt and delusion, forgiveness, truthfulness, control of the senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress, birth, death, fear, fearlessness, nonviolence, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All of these various qualities of living beings are created by me alone. This is the Supreme Personality Krishna speaking. So you heard those qualities. They sounded like some we've touched on and some more we're going to be moving towards. But these qualities are created by the Lord. So therefore we have them because we're his part and parcel, right? And what we're being given is the tools, if you will, methods to awaken these qualities and put them into practice in our daily lives. In this particular purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks about truthfulness, which I'll read to you. Sacham, truthfulness, means that facts should be presented as they are for the benefit of others. Facts should not be misrepresented. According to social conventions, it is said that one can speak the truth only when it is palatable to others. But that is not truthfulness. The truth should be spoken in a straightforward way so that others will understand actually what the facts are. If a man is a thief, and if people are warned that he's a thief, that is truth. Although sometimes the truth is unpalatable, one should not refrain from speaking it. Truthfulness demands that the facts be presented as they are for the benefit of others. That is the definition of truth. Now that's from Srila Prabhupada. And I found truthfulness in another chapter. So I want to read that before we go to the book. I'm now at chapter 16. It's texts 1 to 3. And this is the text. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, we've heard that, right? Purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, nonviolence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault-finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. And again, we said, being part and parcel of the Supreme, we have these qualities. So we just need to awaken them and imbibe them. And if you have a Bhagavad Gita, you might want to try and read those 2 chapters and more. There's just so much. Now let's see what Bhakti Tirtha Swami has to say and how we can put this into application. He says, the 4th tool is truthfulness. We should be so fixed and steady in our realization of the Supreme and in our love and our compassion for others that we can speak the truth even to an enemy. Spirituality is a realm of its own. Thus, the spiritualist functions under different laws than the materialists. And those who are familiar with the Bhagavad Gita, we get that in chapter 2, don't we? When Arjuna, to demonstrate for us what happens with frustration and confusion, had throw down his weapons. I won't fight, he doesn't want to do. And he turns to Krishna, and what does Krishna say to him? You call yourself an intelligent person, but you don't know the difference between the material and the spiritual. And then he goes on to tell him. So, spirituality is a realm of its own. Thus, the spiritualist functions under different laws than the materialist. For instance, the law of spiritual mathematics. This law dictates that the more we give away, the more we will receive. Rather than depleting our supply of spiritual merits, if we give our spiritual thoughts and deeds away, we actually increase our supply. I guess what comes to mind is the statement from the scriptures. What is it? As you give, so shall you receive. And this, I feel, is even taking it to a higher level. If you're just thinking of materially giving, you're going to get back more. That's in our conditioned state. We think that way, Oh, if I give this away, then maybe I'll get tenfold. But what he's saying here is, the more we give away, the more we will receive, rather than depleting our supply of spiritual merits. We give our spiritual thoughts and deeds away. We actually increase our supply. This is especially true in aligning ourselves with truth. The more we speak, behave, and live truthfully, the more truth will enter our experience. However, we should not become self-righteous or demeaning in our delivery. You see how he guides us. He tells us what is possible. And then, knowing human nature, he reminds us to not abuse what we're being given and how to be cautious and mindful and alert of how we use this knowledge that we're getting, these methods and technologies. We should not become self-righteous and demeaning in our delivery. Because I'm sure you've seen, or I even had felt at times when I first came to this study and would ask a question and somebody would say, what do you mean? You don't know that. No, I don't know it. If I knew it, I wouldn't ask you. And it's a sense there of, well, I know and you don't know and what's wrong with you. But we must be careful with that. No matter how much knowledge we're gaining and someone is there, our purpose is, throughout all of this, a spiritual warrior is to help others. And so he reminds us not to be self-righteous. He goes on. We should also try to give the truth in a way that will elevate whomever hears it. That's important. You want to help people raise their consciousness, clarify. You don't want to come at them so that if they're making an effort or trying or not sure, by the time you get finished with them, they want to give up and go off. No. We should try to give the truth in a way that will elevate whomever hears it. That is real warfare. Because as we come down to someone else's lower level, we allow ourselves to be defeated. When we engage in proper spiritual combat, we are not only trying to avoid becoming a casualty, but we also want to do something that will help elevate others. In that way, more souls have a chance to become free and move on. Today, the world community is severely depleted of wisdom. One reason for this is that people do not compete with a sense of honor or a sense of respect for themselves and their opponents. I was reading this to someone, and it's interesting. They went back to this political campaign, exciting campaign we just finished, and was recalling in one of the debates how one spoke to another one and didn't look at that one or something like that, and was just saying there was just no respect for others. And I believe even if we stop in our everyday life and see how we are treating others, or how we are, as it says here, competing with a sense of honor or a sense of respect for themselves and their opponents. They constantly cheat in combat, whether this is in the mental or physical arena. Few people fight fairly, and even if someone does defeat another fairly, the defeated party wants to bribe the judge, challenge the decision, or discredit the opponent. And I know that sounds familiar to all of us who are out there, and we see this day after day out there in the material world. He continues, this behavior actually reduces the collective storehouse of knowledge and respect. Rather than exchanging techniques and wisdom with one another, we have become petty and unscrupulous, bringing about an overall stagnation in world progress. It's interesting. I'm just trying to figure, as I read, sometimes I get a little scene in my head, and I'm like, where did that come from? How do I explain that? But the scene that came up when I was reading this behavior actually reduces the collective storehouse of knowledge and respect. Rather than exchanging techniques and wisdom with one another, we have become petty and unscrupulous, bringing about an overall stagnation in the world progress. And the scene that came up for me is in an office. If we work out, and having worked out there for many years, when you come together based on this, as he said, depletion of wisdom, how do we converse? How do we communicate? What are we saying? Is it really planning, scheming, how to get something for nothing, or agitating someone? The wisdom isn't there. The knowledge which we are to give and use in our lives isn't there. So if we're out there, hopefully this is helping us to clarify and see how just in our energy in gaining this knowledge and putting into application in our lives can change the world. Because rather than exchanging techniques and wisdom with one another, and we have it if we're studying these books and studying Bhagavad Gita and Srila Prabhupada's books, and we are gaining knowledge and wisdom to change, bring change. And we don't have to stand back and feel we have to be quiet, because they might not like what I'm going to say. Again, if you're not acting self-righteous and know-it-all, but you're coming from a sense of self-identity as who you really are, and then you have a sense of self-worth, you can speak the truth and help others and not get offended if they don't accept it. He continues, this is very unfortunate. Let me read that again. Rather than exchanging techniques and wisdom with one another, we have become petty and unscrupulous, bringing about an overall stagnation in world progress. This is very unfortunate. The best antidote for this problem is truthfulness coupled with humility. Yeah, humility. Do you remember any of the points in humility that we went over last week? This is when I I think of giving class and I can look out and see faces and see heads nodding or not nodding or down, but it's okay. We're having a interaction here because hopefully by asking these questions you're thinking, and maybe if you're in association you can exchange. But let's review the 4 meanings of humility that Bhakti Tirtha Swami gave us and we went over last week. I think that was one of the questions on what are the 4. Okay, first he says, humility means knowing there is so much we do not know. So much we still need to learn. And that's wonderful to have that point of view, because you then open yourself for the knowledge, for understanding. I'm being told to go back to a statement he made in the first tool, self-control and mastery of the mind. How about this? Remember? An active, progressive, devotional mind is a place where the Lord can focus and radiate transcendental messages and understanding. So you see how these all work together. It isn't about, okay, this is tool 1, and okay, I think I got that, put it aside. It's, to me anyway, it's weaving like a wonderful thread in a fabric, and it's repeating or hearing and having a strong desire to apply in our lives so we can change. So if we have an active, progressive mind, devotional mind, the Lord can focus and radiate transcendental messages and understanding. And if we're humble, knowing that there's so much more we need to what we don't know, and that we still need more, the Lord can bring the more we need to know to this active, progressive mind. The second is, humility means knowing there's a higher part of ourselves and being eager to awaken that part. And this again can go back to what we read, I think it was in the mind where he minds, or in the introduction when he reminds us that we are eternal beings. And we have to get the mind to remember that, so it doesn't try to control us. And if you know there's a higher part of ourselves, and if you're eager to awaken that part, here again, it can go back to, what was it we just said? And having an active, progressive, devotional mind. And then the Lord can focus and radiate transcendental messages and understanding. Humility means knowing that we are servants of the Supreme, children of God. And humility means recognizing who is doing the controlling and being dependent on that actual controller. Deliberate and voluntary surrender to the Lord requires great trust. Okay, that was in our reading on humility, but I'm just fascinated as I'm reading myself and trying to learn how these are all interconnected, each one. And as we've seen from reading Bhagavad, these qualities, Krishna himself is presenting and telling us how important it is in our lives. They're created by him, and if we have them, then what? They're godly. They're godly. Okay? So, where did I leave off? Okay, best antidote for this problem is truthfulness coupled with humility. We should truly admit defeat if defeated, then earnestly work to better ourselves. That's the hard part, huh? We should truly admit defeat if defeated, then earnestly work to better ourselves. And that's where the difficulty, if we think we're the body and forget who we really are. And then it's like, what? Can't do that to me. I can't be put down like that. I can't be. And then what? You get more anger and frustrated, and you want to react. Whereas if, as we're being told in these readings and from Bhagavad Gita and from here, of knowing who we really are and who we're connected to, who is the control and arranger. So that's the humility, if we truly admit defeat, if we're defeated. But once we take that, then earnestly work to better ourselves, which means we're have to regulate the mind in order to do that. And as we said, the Lord can then focus and radiate transcendental messages and understanding. So there's no problem really with following what he's saying. What is that? Easier said than done? Yes, but he says, earnestly work to better ourselves. He says, sincere study and application can help you, keep you from being a casualty on this battleground out there. We should give credit where it is due and sincerely try to help others in all circumstances. Sincerely try to help others in all circumstances. Sincerely try to help others in all circumstances. Okay, what's coming up there? And I think we had said it in one of these. You have to get yourself out the way. You have to know that you are a servant of the Supreme. And if you know that, and you're regulating your mind, coming back to this again, and you have an active, progressive, devotional mind, it's a place where the Lord can focus and radiate transcendental messages and understanding. So you can then give credit where it's due and sincerely try to help others in all circumstances. This will restore truth to the planet and create an environment of mutual trust and progress. The next tool is important in developing that mood of truly helping others. So, you ready to go to that next tool? Okay? You're dealing with truthfulness, huh? Well, let's see. What is the next tool that is so important in developing that mood of truly helping others? The next tool is compassion and pridelessness. Just remembered, I was supposed to do a little more homework on this myself. But I'm going to not beat myself up. I will go along and maybe make note. But let's see what he says on this now. Now this is to develop the mood of truly helping others. And that's what a spiritual warrior is, if you recall his definition and what we read in the beginning. The fifth tool is compassion and pridelessness. Constantly looking for a pat on the back and for people to like us will overshadow our concern for what is right and proper, causing us to lose our higher principles. It is better to be right than it is to be honored. When we have real love, we will not only inconvenience ourselves for another, but it becomes a joy to do this for someone we truly love. It should give us pleasure to put ourselves out to do something nice for someone we care about. The spiritual warrior, and this is what we're working on, spiritual warriorship. The spiritual warrior takes this attitude of selfless love and broadens the field of affection to include all individuals. The spiritual warrior takes loving compassion to a whole other level and is literally prepared to suffer for others. One story from the Vedic scriptures beautifully illustrates this. There was a young holy person named Ramanujacharya, the disciple of a great mystic teacher who was instructing him in sacred mantras. One day, the teacher gave Ramanuja a special mantra, which he claimed was extremely powerful, because he was pleased with Ramanuja's progress. The teacher then stressed that this mantra should remain a secret in all course and should not be given to anyone. When Ramanuja asked him why, he explained that the sacred sound vibration had the power to immediately deliver anyone who spoke it back to the spiritual realm, but that there were consequences for its misuse. Ramanujacharya immediately thanked his spiritual teacher, pondered the situation for a moment, and then ran to the top of the tallest building and started shouting out the mantra at the top of his lungs. The teacher heard his student shouting and came out and harshly scolded Ramanujacharya. "You fool!" he cried. "I gave you this sacred mantra for discreet distribution, and you have shouted it from the top of the tallest building to all kinds of unqualified people." The teacher expected Ramanujacharya to deny the accusation or at least apologize. But instead, Ramanuja replied, "You said that anyone who uses this mantra can gain God consciousness. I saw all those town people suffering for lack of knowledge. So I decided to give them the key to liberation. If there is some penalty for this act of mercy, then let me go to hell immediately. I am prepared to suffer on their behalf, to let all of them go free." How willing are we to stand up and speak this truth that we're getting, this understanding that we're getting, and be fearless to help others. This is what he's talking about here, helping others. This is spiritual warriorship, he says. Of course, we may not be as qualified as people in the age of Ramanujacharya. However, when one is determined to benefit others, and when they are prepared to endure all kinds of austerity to keep the mind, body, and consciousness fixed for warfare, despite whatever temptations, anxieties, and emotions may arise, one has qualified himself for advanced spiritual warriorship. A spiritual warrior becomes fixed and focused on the idea that whatever it takes to be successful in raising people's consciousness is not too much to ask. It can never be too much to see that there is ultimate liberation and unmotivated spiritual service to the Lord. This goes back to where one of knowing that we are servants of the Lord. If we're servants of the Lord, how do we serve him? We serve him by caring for his other parts and parcels. He goes on. This was the position of Jesus and of many saints and teachers who were literally prepared to absorb the collective universal karma of the citizens, so those souls could have less weight holding them back from launching ahead in their spiritual quest. And this is what the spiritual warriorship is about. We want to help people move ahead. We see people who are stagnant, and we see it's painful for them. So, as studying these qualities and this guide and methods here to help others, Such a warrior is a general. In these situations, the Lord is so satisfied by their actions, He not only helps the souls they are trying to connect with, but He also gives those generals more empowerment to represent the higher scheme of reality. He concludes this tool, this quality. Love is the greatest weapon. Its greatest enemies are lust and greed. When there is proper love and compassion, these things will not distract us. If we are true loving beings, then our love will extinguish all things unnatural and hostile, because we will vibrate with such intense energy. If we are true loving beings, then our love will extinguish all things unnatural and hostile, because we will vibrate with such intense energy. What comes to my mind? That vibrate with such intense energy. You see a child when they see their parent coming, and they may have been busy doing something, and they get a look, and they look up and they say, "What happened?" He gets excited. He's moving. He's jumping. That's a love connection there. And even ourselves, we see somebody. I get excited when I see a devotee. I love seeing devotees. But if I see someone I hadn't seen in a while, and it's exciting. I just feel, bless these old legs. I feel like running, but I can stand and bounce up in one spot. But there is an intense energy when you see someone you love, or you be loving that person, you want to help that person. And this is what he's talking about. If we are carriers of such empowered love, then everyone must either join us at that level or get away from us. We then become role models for others to see what spiritual life can achieve. And I want to give you your questions to ponder on. I feel like saying, and what were the two qualities that we talked about tonight? Great. Okay. You forgot? You better get to your book. Okay. Question 1. Under truthfulness, what happens when we give away or share our spiritual thoughts and deeds? What is one reason the world community is severely depleted of wisdom? Okay, and under compassion and pridelessness, a spiritual warrior becomes fixed and focused on what idea? And love is the greatest weapon. What are its greatest enemies? What happens when we become carriers of empowered love? All right, I'll end there. And the next week we're going to be doing material exhaustion and disinterest in material rewards. Sounds exciting. Okay, but remember, this is for study and application. So I hope someone can share something that they've experienced from these classes. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Gurudev. Any questions?
Well, so far, Bhuvan Mohandas says, he says to offer his obeisances to you.
Haribol, Prabhu.
And Faye says, hi and happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, Faye. Oh, my goodness, we got to talk. Thank you for being there. I'm glad you're doing so well. That's it? Okay. Shalagram has a question? All right.
You said one should speak truthfully when one can, when one can speak from a place of humility and not being condescending. So if I'm not at that level, should I still speak truthfully? Or,
As long as you're not being, as he says, self-righteous and think you know it all, yes. Because the only way we'll know if it works is to do it. In school, when you're in school and you get a problem or an equation or a fact for a certain study that you're doing, you don't accept it as working unless you put it to work. And that's why teachers give homework. You get, and then you have to apply it. And sometimes it's hard. You got to go back to the teacher. You said this goes at this, and this is the fact, but it doesn't balance out and it doesn't work. And that teacher may send you back or repeat the question, and you'll find you may have missed something. So yes, it means practice. It means serious study. What was the other expression? Vigilant. What was that in? I like that expression. Vigilant. What was the word? But we have vigilant application of spiritual warfare may prove to be our very lifeline. So you must be vigilant. You must, if you hear, and that's why hearing is so important in our practice. The soul knows what is needed. The mind, as he said earlier, can kind of cover that soul and, seem to be confused. But if you hear it, you jot it down if you think you won't remember it, and then you go with it and apply it. And the Lord who works with us, as he said, and will say, hey, Jai wants to get this point. Let me give him a test right away. That's how much he loves us. And he'll give you an opportunity to apply that particular quality that you heard, that your soul said, yippee, you're hearing it, I'm here, I want to be that. And you say, well, I'll try it. And somebody says, what are you talking about? Get out of my face. You don't give up, because that's the test. And then if that, as he says here, some may come and some may go, but you stay with it. Fixed and focused, I believe. We should be so fixed and steady in our realization of the Supreme and in our love and compassion for others, that we can speak the truth even to an enemy. Does that help? Anybody else? No? Okay. You have another, all right.
You mentioned one should endure all austerities for others' benefit, to help others. But how can we not let others take advantage of us or come from a prideful place because and think, I'm sacrificing so much, and that's second. And then third is...
Wait. Slow down, girl. Because, see, one thing, I don't know if you call it humility, I know that I don't know anything, so I have to wait and try to open my mind so that the Lord will come in with. So slow down. Okay? Repeat that second one again, because something did come up for that.
The second one was, okay, so you were talking about enduring all austerities for the benefits of others. So my first question is how not to let people take advantage of you, and the second one is how not to come from a prideful place.
How not to let people take advantage of you.
Like you're enduring all this austerity,
But you think you're enduring, and that you're the doer. And it's only by me it's going to get done, and it ain't it. It's knowing, and I think it was in some of this reading, I can't place it, but is this because you're trying to help someone? Huh? Okay. Well, are you being, as he said, self-righteous? Or demeaning? Or thinking, I got it, I know it, so you better get it. And folks respond to that kind of energy. That's why he goes into this love. When we love, when we have real love, we will not only inconvenience ourselves for another, but it becomes a joy to do this for someone we really love. It should give us pleasure to put ourselves out to do something nice for someone we care about. So you may say, but I don't really care that much. But if we're working from a spiritual perspective, we know that the Lord is in everybody. And that's who we're trying to please, is the Lord. So any feeling of being taken advantage of, I found, had to do with the bodily concept. How can you do that to me? But Krishna told Arjuna in chapter 2, with the soul, it can't be cut, it can't be drowned, it can't be whatever. And that's who we really are, spirit soul. So how can it be offended if we realize? It doesn't. It isn't offended because it knows itself as who it is. But it's us who think we're somebody else. And of course we're going to be offended because that ain't our real self. It's who we think we are, and who we think we are, somebody is offending. Make sense? So therefore, what do we need to know? Who we are. Based on our studies. Is that okay? And there was something else? No? Okay. Anybody else?
There's a question from Nemit.
Who?
Nemit.
Nemit. From where? Tell you all I like to know where you're
Okay.
calling, writing from.
Okay.
What does he say?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. How can we work through these qualities with intelligence and practicality and not become fanatic? It is also sometimes said that we should act according to the faith we have so that we do not harm ourselves. So I guess the question is, how can we work through these qualities with intelligence and practicality and not become fanatic?
How can we work through these qualities? What's coming to me is to try it. Do you want to imbibe this and one at a time, because we are at different levels of consciousness. And from what I'm reading, he's giving us step by step. And if you notice, I referred to Bhagavad Gita. All these qualities are in Bhagavad Gita. I didn't even go. There was one on, 17, 15, and I had another one. I read 16, 1 to 3, and compassion is given there. And these are godly qualities, and these are it's our right. It's who we are. So they're being given for practical use, and we won't know until we try. And when we try, as in any situation, you'll be challenged. But that's where the fixedness, as he said, being fixed and focused on the Supreme, so fixed and steady in our realization of the Supreme and our relation with Him and our connection with Him and how He's there to protect us and to help us. And again, where we read, and it goes back to the first, where you learn to master the mind. I don't know if you have the book or you've been following, but he gives such an outline of how the mind acts and how to counteract. So if we have an active, progressive, devotional mind, it's a place where the Lord can focus and radiate transcendental messages and understanding. So if you just try, if you have the desire, I want to practice this quality. I want to express this quality. I want to become this quality. And you begin each day practicing, mastering the mind, practicing humility. And he gives many steps under humility. And it's just about practicing. We've been so conditioned, it may be a little painful, but if you really want it, go for it. Practice it daily, daily, daily. Okay?
There's a comment from Holly, and she says, Mother Indrani, my heart is so thankful for being allowed to be here. Both last week and this week, I have really been struck with the thought of not allowing my self-worth to be placed on others' response to my actions, but instead this phrase, knowing who we are connected to, and learning to let go of others' responses and concentrate only on my actions and response. I also really appreciated the part on love being the greatest weapon, and how he wrote this was the position of Jesus. Having been raised Christian, I have recently come to a place where this resonates with me. Thank you very much for allowing us to come.
Thank you very much, Holly. I knew a Holly, met a Holly, I don't know, once at Gitanagri. Are you the Holly I met once before, or are we just meeting? If so, thank you for your comment, and just keep being open and keeping your mind open. And again, I love that expression. As you do, the Lord can focus and radiate transcendental messages and understanding through an active, progressive, devotional mind. Thank you, Howard.
Bhakti Trey says, Mother Indrani, you say that one should know themselves so they do not become bewildered by the way in which others perceive you. Does one ever express his spiritual personality in this world, or does the Lord only see?
Does one ever express his spiritual personality in this world?
Or does the Lord only see?
Or does the Lord only see his spiritual personality? Dr. Trey? You better get back in touch with me so we can talk more often. But thank you for being there. I'm not evading your question. Our spiritual personality is, okay, what's coming is always presented once we get our false personality out the way. I remember my guru wrote in one of his books to me, it was, I think, going into New Year. How did he put it? It is time to let your false ego die and bring alive your divine ego. These qualities, as they're being presented, are to awaken that spiritual personality, because that's who we really are. If we're not expressing a spiritual personality, then we are expressing a false personality, and that's where the pain comes in. As we begin to study, and again I'm coming back to these qualities, which are the qualities stated in Bhagavad Gita, and in this 16th, Krishna said these qualities, they're transcendental qualities, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature. We all are endowed with divine nature. It's just awakening these divine qualities and expressing them. And this spiritual warrior checklist is giving us the opportunity to express. And as I say, we take them one at a time. And if you notice, he gave sense control and mastery of the mind first. That can take a few days, a few weeks, a few lifetimes. But if we desire it, we take it as it's given here, and we begin to practice. And as we desire, you and get that mind regulated and under control, and back to an active, progressive, devotional mind is a place where the Lord can focus and radiate transcendental messages and understanding, and He's going to give it to your spiritual self. And when He gives it, it comes out. Unless you decide to allow the mind to block it. And He tells us that here. Because the mind has a problem with higher stuff. Our conditioned minds hate change and have a deep fear of being abandoned. That is why the mind does not want the soul to take over. But a spiritual warrior must first discover what their mind's habits are and determine whether their mind is acting as a friend or an enemy. If you discover your mind is acting as an enemy, as most people do, please do not feel discouraged, beloved. Rather, begin to work on gradually coaxing your mind into realizing that its conditioned tendencies are bringing no real satisfaction, and explain to your mind that true peace will come from cooperating with God and our soul's agenda. How's that, Bhakti trait? I hope it helps. But we have to work. We have to do the work ourselves. What does it say? God helps those who help themselves. And we got a God that wants to help. He tells us, I protect my devotees. I love my devotees. Just think on me and all. I mean, we just have to practice. Okay? Any other comments or questions? Okay, I hope everybody had a thankful day. Again, I am thankful to have your association, and look forward for us meeting next week. Hare Krishna. All glories to Prabhupada, Guru and Guru.